Hey everybody, and welcome to the Intentional Harmony Podcast. This podcast is for musicians looking to jumpstart their career, inspire others, and get motivated to make the life of your dream. I don't care if you've been playing music for 5 years or 20 years. If you want a career in music, then what the heck are you waiting for? And let me clarify when I say career. This podcast is not just for musicians that want to make it big. This is for the musician who wants to play part-time, the brand new artist who just needs a little push in the right direction, the artist who does want to make it their full-time gig, and even the artist who's still figuring it out, because really, aren't we all? Whatever your dream and vision may be, this podcast will be here for you. I'm your host, Katie Warren, and I am so excited that you decided to listen today. My goal with each episode is that you explore deeper thoughts, build confidence to make your dream a reality, and give you practical tools and ideas that you can apply to real-life situations. I'll start each episode with a bit of news from the industry because we all know it changes ridiculously fast. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 2. I hope you enjoyed the first podcast, and today I have a great microphone, so hopefully the sound quality is a little bit better. So as promised, I will touch on a current music industry topic every week. So I read an article by Heather McDonald on thebalancecareers.com. She titled the article, 3 Music Industry Problems That We Have to Face Today. And all of them were really great topics, but the second one in particular caught my attention because I know in this day and age, we are struggling with it a lot. And that's utilizing the internet. It is a blessing and a curse, honestly, because the broke musician, quote unquote, can have the ability to reach people that he or she has never before been able to do through social platforms. You can connect with people all over the world, and you can build a loyal following of thousands and millions of people online. But unless you're making money with collaborations and sponsorships, which we'll talk about in another episode, then you're probably not making much off of that huge following. Just because you have thousands of Facebook fans and or Instagram followers doesn't mean you're going to sell that many concert tickets or merch items or what have you. Now, my marketing brain is going a mile a minute, and there's a lot of ways to help combat this, which is why, again, we're going to talk about this in a whole nother episode. But it's definitely something to be aware of for you right now. How are you going to turn a lot of those followers that you have into loyal paying fans? Food for thought, but again, I promise in the coming weeks, I will talk about some of these solutions. But moving on to this week's topic, which I think is super important before you do anything else in your career as a musician, you need to think about yourself as a business. You are a business, and I cannot emphasize this enough. If you want to make an income, whether it's part-time or full-time in the music industry, then you need to act like this is a side hustle or a startup that you are taking on. And to do that, there's a few critical steps that you need to take to do so. If you think about any business, what's the first thing they have to put together? Now, a few of you should think all the way back to college, or maybe college was a few months ago for others. But in your business class, you made a business plan, right? You can scoot by and take it day by day or week by week or month by month, but think about how much further ahead your mindset will be and how less stressed you're going to be if you sit down and you actually write a business plan, making short-term goals and long-term goals and really planning out this career. You're not just a musician. As an artist, I know it can be really hard to convince people that this is a full-time job or this is a profitable job, part-time or full-time. And too often people think of musicians as just artsy people with a really fun hobby. But you guys, we have talent that can create so much emotion and connection that can send so many messages and break language barriers. I'd like to challenge them to really think how this is not a legitimate career path. Anyways, that's beside the point. I digress. The biggest point I'm trying to make with this business plan is that people are going to take you a lot more seriously if you treat this like you are starting your own business, because guess what? You are. This is the entertainment industry, and you need to step up and be a businessman or businesswoman to really make a profit in this industry and rise above the competition. Trust me, we need everything we possibly can going for us to set us apart from everyone else. And when it comes to investors, agents, managers, and so on, this business plan is really going to show them that you are clear and serious on what you want. You are worth their investment and time. There are a ton of resources online, and no matter what, you should always make a list to keep you focused on that path. Have you ever went shopping without a list and then all of a sudden you are at checkout and your bill's over $200? Yeah. Now, think about that in relation to your music career. It's a little more serious than a $200 bill. This business plan will help you stay on track, list out all of the important things that you need to think about, help you focus, and give you an achievable outline to follow, because trust me, it is so easy to get lost and overwhelmed in this crazy changing industry. I linked a really great business plan outline that I created specifically for musicians in the comment section of this podcast. So if you want to download it, feel free. It doesn't have to be 100 pages of boring words and tables and outlines, you guys, but there are some major sections you need to cover in this plan. So start with an executive summary. This is just going to briefly cover an introduction of your business in the music industry and your plans to put it in action. It doesn't have to be, more than a paragraph or two. Next is an audience summary. In this section, it's really critical because you need to do some research and spend some time finding out who your target market is. If you already know this, awesome, but I really encourage you to just take one more deep dive and make sure you have it narrow enough. So if you remember from the first episode, I mentioned that you don't need to reach everyone or connect with everybody. I'm sorry, but not everybody's going to like your music, right? We all have a lot of different tastes. So once you figure out who you are as an artist and what your story is, you should really be able to narrow down this group of people pretty far. And that doesn't mean other people can't listen to your music, but the meat of your marketing focus needs to be on this narrow group. Okay, I'm going to slow my marketing brain down, but the main areas you need to identify are the obvious age, gender, and geography. But then it can get a lot more targeted when you think about what are they interested in? What other music do they listen to? What types of hobbies are they into? Fashion, different brands. There's a lot you can identify in your audience. And when you're really getting deep into marketing further down the line, that is going to help. The next thing you need to identify is your SWOT analysis. In other words, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your business. The first two, you have the ability to change and control by leaning on other people. This is where your manager, your booking agent, your creative team can help you with in your development. All of these players that will start to come into play as you grow your career. The opportunities and threats are something that you can't really control. However, you can be as prepared and proactive as possible once you identify them. Okay, once you have the above outline and your long-term and short-term goals set, I want you to write out how you became an artist, who you are. This is your story, just like we talked about in episode 1. And at the end of this story is where you identify your mission, vision, and values, which is so important because this is you. This is what sets you apart from everybody else. Okay, next is your financial plan. I can feel your eyes rolling, and I completely agree. Finances suck. It can be discouraging. It's painful, but it is very necessary to plan out. You may have to do some research, but I would much rather do that than be caught off guard with crazy expenses I was not prepared for. And especially on a new starting out musician salary, you want to have anticipated expenses ready to go. So think about what you need to still invest in for this career to work. If that old guitar is failing you every time you practice, or that piano just can't hold a tune, then you may need to start thinking about adding that to your finance list. If you need amps and microphones to perform, then that's absolutely something you have to invest in very soon. You can rent for a little while, but that's going to really get expensive and add up. There's a lot of secondhand ways to get this equipment than, having to buy it brand new. Do what you can for now. If you're doing any type of online videos, then you should be prepared to have a decent recording setup in your home, along with, again, the proper equipment. Other things like practice space, professional marketing materials like media kits and business cards, the list goes on. And really, you just need to do a brain dump and write down everything you can think of. This is just to get you established and to outline what you need to consider purchasing in the near future. You don't need to go rack up your Amazon credit card right now, but again, you want to plan for this. After you consider your expenses, then you're going to want to outline your potential income. How do you plan to make your money? How do you plan to save your money or invest it? Yeah, whoa, okay, one step at a time, I know. But these are the things that you need to consider, or at least get in the back of your head if this is seriously going to be a full-time career. I'm here to support you and motivate you, but also here to give you that tough love. After the finances are laid out in your business plan, you'll need to lay out a marketing plan. This includes all different types of advertising, like traditional marketing and, of course, digital. Social media is going to be a huge part of your marketing strategy, but it's not everything. From radio to posters to street teams, word of mouth, social promoting, your strategy can amp up really quickly. And it doesn't have to break the bank from the start. There are a lot of non-expensive ways you can market yourself effectively, but just know that as your music career grows, you're going to want to start heavily investing in marketing. If you're doing it right, then you will get a return on investment. The last thing in your plan would be metrics. How are you going to measure your growth and progress and income? This is more than just your social following, and I'm sure you understand that, but by tracking trends over time, you can really start to learn what things worked and what things didn't work on a much larger scope, and it's going to save you a lot of future hassle and time waste. Okay, you guys, I know that was a lot, but once you sit down and take the time to do this, I promise it'll be worth it. You're not going to have to do this, 4 or 5 times. If you really get a good plan down, this is it. You'll have a clear vision of what you need to do to really get you on the right track, to either get started in your career or to maybe reset if you've already found yourself in the midst of your music career. It's always good to go back and reflect. After your business plan, I highly recommend you register yourself or your band as a business. Do not do this before your business plan is in place. I wish I could scream this one out to the music world. For liability and tax purposes, I highly recommend registering you as a solo artist or your band as a business entity. Usually LLCs are pretty painless, cheap, and easy to set up. That's what I did for my business, but it isn't my place to tell you which type of entity to go with. If you're really confused after researching online, just, maybe speak with an attorney to discuss the best option for your situation. So if you register yourself or your band as a business, you may get better tax outcomes because you can avoid self-employment taxes and because your income is coming from your business. You'll be able to make certain deductions and you may be able to get a few more tax breaks. One of the most important reasons why I'm suggesting to register is because you're going to have protection. If something goes wrong, such as a lawsuit, a member of the band leaving, etc., a lot can happen, and having a legally recognized business and a written contract will take the emotion out of the situation and leave it very matter of fact if things start to fall apart. We hope that never happens, but it's important because in that legal business, when setting it up, you would have determined who handles the expenses, who owns the name, how is your money distributed. You wouldn't play a large gig without a contract and a rider, right? I hope. Well, then don't even think about going public until you have a strong, legally recognized business behind you. There's a few downfalls. It could complicate taxes a little bit more, and, you may have to pay someone to do your taxes if you've always done it yourself. If your band does break up, it could be a process to dissolve the business. But all in all, you guys, if you decide to work with a label or a partner, having you or your band registered as a business gives you so much more credibility, and it shows you're taking this career path seriously. I was going to touch on social media, but I think I'll move that to another episode. I'm sure your brain is already exploding enough, and if this episode was a little bit basic for you or more of a review than anything, thank you for getting to this point. Like I said, it doesn't hurt to review. And if I can say one thing of impact to you all listening, it would be to stop waiting for the right time. In last week's episode, I emphasized the importance that there is never going to be a good time. Something is always going to come up. We're always going to make excuses because that's human nature. We are designed as a human race to try and take the easier route and the safer route. We are designed in this day and age to have a shorter attention span. Right now, more than ever, We need an action plan in place, and we need goals so that we stay on task. If you keep starting and restarting, you're just setting yourself back even more. Every single time you restart, you take a little step back, and it's just self-sabotage. Consistency is the key. As a public figure, you need to show up consistent for not only yourself, but for the audience who's connecting with you. Someone out there is really curious about your talent, and they're ready to follow you. Maybe, buy a concert ticket. But if you stop showing up and you stop being consistent before they really buy in, you've just done all that work for that person to turn around and forget about you. So consistency is really the key here, guys. You have the passion, you have the talent, you have the goals, now you have the business plan and the business license. Now you need to show up. I love creating vision boards because it's really inspirational. You could go on Pinterest and you can find a ton of different examples and ways to do this, but I really recommend taking a little while, making one and pinning it up on your wall along with the reason of why you started this music journey. This acts as a constant reminder in front of your face that you can always see. Because each and every one of you that's listening right now made it through the end of this podcast, I know you listened for a reason. You would not have stuck through this horrible business talk unless you really wanted this. You guys were made for it. Stop sabotaging yourself. Stop with the excuses and do what you were made to do, because you all have the potential. I believe in you, and I know you have people out there rooting for you to be successful. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode called Before You Press Play. There was some hard love and a lot of information, so I encourage you to read my Intentional Harmony blog for the recap, which will be linked in this podcast description, along with a free business plan template download that I put together specifically for you guys. You can find it on my website too. So I hope you guys have a great productive week, and don't forget to do one thing today that gets you further along in your career than when you pressed play on this podcast. Next week's episode focuses on the theme going public. We're going to talk about why you may not need to invest in a large tour right away, how you can connect with your warm market, how you can conquer the fear of what will they think, and then I'll give you some practical tips, tough love, and motivation to keep you pointed towards success. This is the Intentional Harmony Podcast, and I'll see you next time.